But thank you, Matt, for joining me today and talking with me. This is super cool.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, if you'd like to introduce yourself and what you kind of work on, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, well, I mean, my name's Matt Hocking. I work for JCPal Technology. We're an technology accessories company that we deal mostly with Apple devices, mobile devices, and Surface devices. So screen protectors, keyboard protectors, adaptive, other accessories like USB-C adapters and things like that. I got adapters on the brain. So yeah, I'm their art director. We do a bit of product management, a lot of marketing, and the lead designer there. So
yeah, very cool. And we met because we asked you at Surface to kind of come on this journey with us. We were working on what became the Surface Adaptive Kit. At the same time, we always had this need to have a larger print keyboard. And we worked with you on what became the JCPal VeriSkin. This is the small version. That's for our Laptop Go series. But for people to see, it's big and bright, and we'll get into more of the detail, but you won a Red Dot Award for this. So congratulations. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I mean, it was an awesome project. It's cool to have those, very specific need that we're trying to design something for. It's a lot of fun actually.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's fair to say, the one thing I always sort of tell people, it's interesting, right? Because people wonder what the colors are for, and when I talk about it here in the Inclusive Tech Lab, I'm like, yeah, the consonants are different colors than the vowels and the numbers and the punctuation and the system keys. I think a lot of time in accessibility, people think, you often get this, especially in accessibility and design, people get this idea that designing with color is bad because they're worried about color blindness all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, oh no, designing with color is good. The whole point is just to not rely on color, which in a keyboard, of course, you don't rely on color. But I really appreciated the colors you guys chose and the palette that you kind of went with too, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was we did a lot of testing. Part of our reference points were keyboards for people with dyslexia. And some of them can be they're the same kind of idea, like separating the consonant vowels and the numbers, but they have a contrast between those that is kind of extreme. So a lot of fluorescent colors and things like that. And some people don't want to have things on their desk in an office or wherever environment that look insane, like they're full on color crazy. And, if you have a need for that, that's definitely the thing. But there's a huge range of vision limitations. And the first thing we did was the color contrast between the key markings and the background color. And as long as that was fine and the contrast between the markings was relatively fine, we did a bit of testing with different apps for color blindness, the different types of, because there's a huge range of different types of color blindness as well. So we kind of tried to cover as much as we could. As long as they were different, you could differentiate them. That was our main goal. But with any of these things, we know that there are some, we can't do a design that's perfect for everybody. So
yeah,
we knew that somebody who had maybe a certain specific type of color blindness might have struggles differentiating the vowels and the consonants. But if they happen to have that as a strong need as well as color blindness, unfortunately, that was just hard to cover it. But the bulk of it really was to try and make something that it suited Surface devices. It suited the color scheme that is selected on Surface devices. It felt like exactly like it's supposed to be, designed for Surface. Like it's supposed to be a friend to your Surface device. It's supposed to look like it belongs there, but also still give all those contrast things that we needed to communicate. The different sections of the keyboard and the different keys.
Yeah, and I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, because I think that notion of I don't want to call it stigma in this instance, but there's certainly something to a lot of assistive devices that can feel like the color palettes on them can feel infantilizing. And so I'm very thankful that, you had a contemporary, subtle, yet contrasty color palette. Like, I feel like the balance you guys struck was just great. And when I show, and it's like you said, like when I show it in here, most of the time people don't know it's like an augmentation. Like, it's like, the big reveal of like, oh, look, I can take it off. Right. And people are like, what? Like, people just assume like it's just part of the keyboard. Yeah. And it's been really interesting. And one of the things that, I think another really sort of interesting facet of the product that we've seen, because, we have a bunch and I always kind of show it to people, is there's actually a lot of people out there that like the way that it makes their keyboard feel. Right. Yeah. And I wondered if you like had any experience with that and how people like kind of respond to the material.
Yeah. I mean, we selected a silicon. Like some of these protectors will use a TPU, but the silicon has a much longer lifespan. It's a lot more stretch resistant and things like that. And it kind of wants to stick to the aluminum surface of a laptop. So without being, it wouldn't really glue or adhesives or anything like that. It just wants to sort of sit there. And it means that it can be very thin. You can close the lid of the device, stamping fingerprints on the screen and preventing it from going into sleep mode and all that kind of thing. But as a surface, it's got a sort of a matte texture once you print on it. We do have, so that the underside is a little bit more glossy. Top side has very slight, I think of the word, it makes it really nice. Like, it's kind of like a very, very, very slight felt type feel. So we also have, in for the feel, like we wanted to help, I guess, locate your hands on the device. Like, so for a long time, keyboards have had the bump on the F and the J key, and that's like a localizer that I think a lot of people don't even notice after a while. But we put corner bumps on the outside of the letter keys. So on the Q, P, Z, and M. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but the idea is that you'll be able to feel the bounds of the letter. But that kind of, like, hopefully will help people center their hands and start to feel the you can touch type.
Yeah, I really appreciated that wayfinding. I think it's really it's really interesting. I wondered if you had any sort of feedback from like people who've kind of validated this product or responded to it, like how they felt about it, because you were making kind of some bold, like, new things there, and I think it's really cool that you went for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did honestly have a little bit of a limitation on that one, just because the printing, we do screen printing, so when you flatten this on a screen printer, that kind of bump can cause a few problems when the screen runs over it, like with the paint bubbling. So it meant that the bump couldn't be quite as pronounced as I wanted, so we had to, it's kind of, it's a subtle thing. So I think, we got some people that were appreciated it, but I would love it to be a bit more pronounced, a little bit more obvious, because I'd like to say there's a spectrum of needs. And I think that there's a lot of people that I know I'd benefit from having that hand location be a bit more, I'd be reminded of it a bit more every time I use my keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about those types of things as, in our work, when you can't see a key, we talk about it as confident, right? Like I can confidently know what key I'm on. And so I do think those tactile affordances are really interesting. I mean, we have them, we put them in the Surface Adaptive Kit for a reason, so that people could put their own in where they wanted it. But I especially like on yours, the edge corners are really cool, but I really like the little, really subtle one that you have on the Windows key.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, I like it a lot, like how that kind of goes. So that's super cool. But yeah,
they're important keys. It's cool to have that, like, just natural. I mean, we're working on some keyboards for like Photoshop users and design software, video editors, and it's amazing how much, like, because we use this software a lot, like how much you have a mind map of that keyboard and, like, undo and things like that. Like I remember at university once I spilled coffee on the desk and my thing, I reached for an invisible keyboard to press Control Z. You know what I mean? Like it's unbelievable how much we have this mind map. So this locators are huge. It's like helping, know the space that you're using and feel the edges.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what you bring up is really interesting because obviously in my work we talk about augmentation for for empowering people with disabilities, and really just kind of to make products fit, right? That's how we think about it a lot. Like, we have conversations with folks in the fashion industry who talk about tailoring, and we think about all these ways that you can really customize something to make it fit. But I actually really appreciate what you just sort of said around these augmentations for specialty cases, like, because context is important. So yeah, if I'm a Photoshop user and I need just this extra affordance, that's really interesting. Does that work kind of align in certain ways? Like, do you find any parallels?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all the kind of the same thing, really. I mean, particularly with keyboards, like that's the thing I'm trying to do is get the computer to do a certain thing, and whether it's video editing or typing generally, like they're all it's all the same thing. Everybody's doing, everyone needs to interact with their computer in that way. So, I mean, we've done a lot of testing with different keyboards, and it's amazing the difference when you switch between keyboards, how lost you can be if the shape of it is slightly different, or the size of it's different, or the click clack is different, the sound is different. It can really throw you off. So, there's a lot of I guess homing, to your device, and the more that we can make it inviting, more people can learn to feel at home and know the space and know how to do things. It's super important, particularly for efficiency when you're trying to use a computer. You don't want to look at every key and jump around. You want to type something. It's not you don't want to spend all day trying to find a letter.
Well, and you're absolutely right, and it is interesting because you're there to give people those affordances for something that you don't design, right? Like, and like we look at keyboards, and obviously for me and Surface, we have a point of view on keyboards, and for good or bad, but it's like you said, like a Lenovo keyboard's different or a Dell keyboard's different. And then the MacBook keyboard is obviously different as well. So yeah, I mean, like finding, and it's wild to me how something that's so benign, like when you really look at it, is very different from device to device.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy that there's cars have a certain uniformity to where your steering wheel is, all that kind of stuff. The size of the height of the dashboard, all that kind of thing is fairly uniform. But like keyboards, we have super wide, we have all kinds of different things. It's very they're very different, and it's good to have those options. But yeah, it can take a little while to learn them.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. So where do you see this type of work going in both the sort of realm of accessibility and other types of augmentation? Like, what excites you about it?
I mean, we're looking at creative industries right at the moment, and I see it's a real challenge because everybody uses their software differently and has different needs. When a video editor might need a wheel, and a graphic designer might need more space for the mouse. These kinds of things. So that's a world that's really a challenge even for us that use these softwares all day long and have our own preferences, like how to make something that's kind of broad enough that anybody can hopefully get some benefit from it. I still think there's one of the big feedbacks we had with this keyboard for Surface was, I want this, but for this Surface device, or I want this for a Chromebook, or I want this for other things. And you know, we talked about every laptop keyboard is slightly different, just about like we can't unfortunately make thousands of these different models. So we've thought about making a Bluetooth keyboard that could have some of these features.
Nice.
I think that the goal is that if somebody sees a benefit to this, like, we want them to have it. You know, if it's helpful and it's useful, these designs, like, the idea is they shouldn't be in this little silo. They should be out there. And, you know, if everybody who has a Chromebook really wants one of those things, well, we want to make something that's compatible with Chromebook, because, you know, it helps you type, and that's the big thing. So the stuff we're doing for software, like for creative softwares like that's taught us a lot about, you know, how complex people's needs are, and how diverse those needs are, and how hard it is to make something for as many people as you want. But also, you know, kind of, I guess, taking that feedback from as many people as we can about what they actually need, because what I need is not necessarily what everybody else's needs are. So that's kind of the direction we're heading, is making multiple devices for Photoshop users and creative software users, but also looking at more keyboards with inclusive, or the goal for accessibility for other devices. You know, there's a lot of potential there.
I mean, a Bluetooth keyboard would be amazing. I appreciate, and especially like for a Chromebook, I think it's really interesting. I think one of the things that, you know, you talk about keyboard design, I think one of the things that I always find hilarious, and it's so obvious, and at the same time, like, if you grew up with a keyboard, you know, with a physical keyboard, which many of us did, on-screen keyboards were the second keyboard we learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a generation of kids who were growing up with on-screen keyboards being their first keyboards, and physical keyboards being their second. And so when I look at a typical keyboard, I always find it amusing that, like, the letters on a typical keyboard are all uppercase.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to actually get them to enter an uppercase thing on the screen, though, I have to hold down Shift and then press an uppercase S. Mm-hmm. And if I don't press Shift, that S comes in lowercase, but the symbol, the legend on the key set is uppercase. So why am I pressing like an uppercase S, but the computer is inputting a lowercase s? Like, that convention is so natural to us who grew up with keyboards, but you get a little kid like who's learning like their letters, and they're like, I don't understand what's happening here. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why is this different? And then I find that just wild that there isn't more lowercase keyboards. And I mean, you know, obviously keyboards are, you know, I'm being very specific about Western keyboards. Keyboards can be whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's wild to me. Like, some of these ideas that are, I guess, grandfathered in, like that we, you know, like the idea of even the symbol for a phone on the phone app on your phone has like a handset that people don't anymore. So how do people that aren't from that generation understand that symbol? You know, it's wild that we're like, oh yeah, we didn't really communicate that to the next ones down in the line, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there is a joke. I think someone told me once that their kid saw a floppy disk on their desk and asked them why they had a 3D printed output of the save icon. Okay. Yeah. Like, I think those sets of things were really, really awesome. So, you know, Matt, this has been really great. I hope that we can work together and continue to work together. And, you know, just so you know, if you ever need anything, you know how to find me. But this has been really cool. I want to thank you for your time and the work that you've done. And you've been, you know, because it was you. I will say you really helped us sort of tackle a problem that we had in a really and just really dove in and really understood what was needed. And I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was a fantastic project. It was really good to be able to work on something like that with you guys. Like, it was a great opportunity and honestly a lot of fun.
That's cool. Well, I hope we have fun. I hope we have more fun. So that's cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Cheers.